thank you for coming immediately after lunch. In fact, I was asked before in the last session whether I would like to squeeze my presentation before lunch or after lunch. I told them I don't want to bear the burden of keeping you starving, so we made it after lunch. I will do my best to make my presentation easy to digest and helpful and useful to you. I'm glad to present to you today the theme of my presentation, which is managing the explosion in data consumptions. In my presentation, it will be of 4 parts. First of all, I will walk you through some historical growth in data, in mobile data, in the last 4 to 5 years, and I will move into the forecast growth in the coming 5 to 10 years. Then we'll indicate the dilemma which the operator will face in the era of the explosion in data traffic. And then we'll talk about what sort of short-term actions the operator has to take to cope with the situation, and then what sort of long-term strategy both operators and regulators have to work together to ease up the situation. And then I will share with you what Zain KSA specific action has taken in this regard. First of all, let's talk about the historical trend in the growth of the mobile data traffic. I trust that every operator has tons and tons of statistical reports showing the trend in the growth of the mobile data traffic in the last 5 years or even going beyond. I picked up a report from Cisco, which shows here the data growth in the last 4 years between 2007 and 2010. In 2007, it was almost 14,000 terabytes per month. In 2010, 237,000 terabytes per month. And this is an average growth of about 150% per year, year after year. And this growth driven by the increase in the data consumption per user. I picked up here a report from FCC which shows between the first quarter 2009 and second quarter 2010, there is about 50 times growth in the average data consumption by users. Now, according to a report from Ericsson in December 2009, the volume of global data traffic carried over wireless network has surpassed that of voice traffic. And this is a very significant milestone where today in 2011, I am confident that the traffic generated from data over wireless network way above that traffic generated by voice. Now, going back into history, as we know that mobile data has started almost practically with the introduction of GPRS in the 2G, but mobile broadband has really started with HSPA and today with HSPA Plus and will continue with LTE and LTE Advanced. Today we have more than 410 HSPA networks with almost 136 networks has been upgraded to HSPA Plus. By end of 2011, we will see that the mobile broadband subscribers will reach almost 1 billion users, with a potential trend to grow to 3 to 5 billion users in years to come. And with the introduction of machine-to-machine services, that will grow to 10 billion plus. This is a huge, huge increase in subscription of mobile broadband. Now, when we look at the revenues has been growing as well in the last few years, and it will continue to grow, but at lower pace, which is about maybe 10 to 20% in some reports. And I believe this will continue in years to come. And if we look at the fixed network, we will see that by end of 2012, according to Ovum, by end of 2012, the revenues from fixed data will exceed the revenue from voice. I don't see why the mobile network doesn't follow the same trend in years to come. Say, if we look at the growth in the coming 5 years, we'll see it's between 25 to 50 times. And 25 times, as according to a very conservative reports, 50 times to more aggressive reports. And this is shown in the graph here, right? Now, it is very obvious that the mobile data traffic will be driving revenue and driving growth in the mobile broadband network throughout the world. This is why I believe that many operators around the world, they have been considering a new technology to cope with the situation. Like LTE, for instance, which will provide higher capacity, higher speed on downlink and uplink, lower latency, and more capability to handle the video applications. And evolution will continue with the LTE advanced technology. Now, let us go a little bit deeper into the forecast of growth in data traffic. This report here divided the world into certain regions and look at the forecast, of the growth from 2010 until 2015. And in various regions of the world, there will be the growth between 55% to 85% per year. This is astronomical growth. And if surprisingly, we look at the Middle East, it's the highest. That means the growth in the Middle East will contribute the highest in the growth of the global data traffic. By the way, I have seen this figure in the previous two presentations, and also I saw some reports which indicates that the Middle East will contribute to 150% CAGR year after year in the coming 5 years. The global CAGR will be almost 92%, which is in itself is a huge increase. Which applications, which services will contribute to that growth? This report here from Cisco shows that by the year 2015, 66.4% will be generated from mobile video. 20.9% will be generated by mobile web and mobile internet. So by the year 2015, almost 87% of the traffic will be generated by these two applications. Now, to see which users will contribute to that growth, also this study here, again by Cisco, by 2015, 55% will be generated by laptops and notebooks, 26.6% by smartphones. That means more than 82% of the data traffic carried over wireless network will be generated by laptops and smartphones. Now, I don't want to go any further into the forecast. Let's wrap up what's the conclusion from that. The growth in data traffic will continue in the coming 5 years, 25 to 50 times the level we have in 2010. In 2020, 500 times. Again, the trend of growth will exponentially keep going up. Laptops and smartphones plus mobile video will drive the growth. What about revenue? Revenue is expected to grow between 10 to 20%. As you see, the data traffic growing 55 to 85% per year, the revenue is 10 to 20%. That means the decoupling between the revenue generated and the growth in data traffic will keep going further and further year after year after year. And that will put so much pressure on the operators to find a way to find the capital to increase the capacity of their network, and also to adopt a technology that will satisfy the needs of the market. The quickest solution to that is maybe by adding new cell sites, going into small cells, or offloading the traffic into Wi-Fi or fiber network, or even femtocells. But what is imminent is there will be a need for additional spectrum for a new generation to cope with the explosion in the data traffic. Now, to find the solution for this dilemma, let's go back into the basics. This formula here is the simplest form which really governs the data capacity on any wireless channel. This is the Shannon theory, where it shows the data capacity proportional linear with the bandwidth and signal-to-noise ratio. In other words, if we have to double the capacity, we have to double the bandwidth and double the spectrum, or find some way to improve the signal-to-noise ratio. Now let's look at bandwidth. For us to get more bandwidth, as you know, bandwidth is very scarce worldwide. Even some allocated frequencies and spectrum for a new generation of wireless network, it was not even made available because there are some current users on that spectrum that cannot be vacated. And this is obvious almost in every country. Also, we cannot go into higher frequencies. There might be some spectrum at higher frequencies, above 5 or 6 or 7 gig. But again, that will require astronomical increase in number of cell sites. That means the capex will be needed to build that network will be huge. That cannot be affordable in the current downturn in economy and scarce of investment. Just to show you the size of the network, there was a study made by FCC where they have studied the amount of increase in traffic in the coming 5 years versus what spectrum is being available. The report says that in the coming 5 years, or mainly precisely in the coming 4 years, there will be a need for additional 300 megahertz spectrum. And by the year 2020, there will be a need for 500 megahertz spectrum. Where to get this additional spectrum, only God knows. But this is to show you the dilemma where we have in today. So instead of focusing on bandwidth, the quickest solution is to try to improve the signal-to-noise ratio, to go into a higher spectral efficiency techniques by adopting new modulation techniques, say QAM64 or multiplexing methodology, or even using antenna solutions by MIMO 2x2 or 4x4 and so on. The other way is to increase the power, and also there are limitations in increasing the power. You cannot increase the power indefinitely, otherwise you will increase the interference, the level of interference within the network. So the power level has to be optimized. The other solution is to reduce the cell size. That means you have to add more and more cell size, and you have to inject more capex into the network. Just to focus a little bit on the spectral efficiency, this graph here shows the improvement in spectral efficiency from the GPRS, which is the startup almost of mobile data, to LTE. Say from GPRS to Edge, it was almost improved 3 times, to UMTS almost 8 times, and then in LTE, there is a spectral efficiency improvement by about 50 times. And with the introduction of LTE Advanced, there will be improvement of 100 times. And this will be achieved by increasing the level of MIMO as part of the LTE Advanced solutions. Of course, with the increase of the spectral efficiency, the cost per bit will go down. That means you can put more subscribers on less investment you spend on the network. Now, of course, there are millions of reports for forecasts, here and there, but these are the reports which I picked up, for the sake of this presentation. What the operators can do, there are some short-term actions, there are some long-term actions. One of the short-term actions is here, manage the network congestion by offload data traffic. The first thing we think of is we have to avoid flat rate offers. And I believe some of you have attended the key panel yesterday and the day before yesterday, where there is a consensus that the Middle East, in fact, all operators worldwide, they can no longer afford, keeping flat rate packages in their offers, because that will keep their network congested and they will not generate enough revenue to cope with the situation. The data offload is shift on data traffic to another network. So if I have congestion on my network, I shift the traffic to another network like Wi-Fi or fixed network or using femtocells. And I believe in the two presentations this morning, some of you have seen there was a full description of this technology. The other quick solution is to upgrade the network to higher grade in the technologies. Say if you have HSPA, upgrade to HSPA plus. That will provide you with more capacity over the network. It will also maybe one of the solutions is to expedite migrating to the second level of generation. So if you have a network 3G, maybe speed up the migration to 4G, or if you are 2G, speed up to 3G, or even move from 2G to 4G straight away. Quickest solution as well, refarm the existing spectrum. As long as the spectrum for the new technology is not available, so why don't the operator use the existing spectrum by refarming it? And we'll talk later about this. Also, network infrastructure, sharing network infrastructure with other operators is an option that will also reduce CapEx and OpEx for the operator and will make them more running their operation in a better, profitable way. I don't want to talk much about it. There was also another panel this morning where it was being discussed in details. Another issue which another action which operator can take is adopt tiered pricing. Again, flat rate. If an operator has to introduce flat rate, he has to be very, very cautious about it. Tiered pricing could be speed-based, could be usage-based, could be location-based. In hotspot areas, the rates can be higher than in other areas. Quality of service, for instance, if there is a customer who requires guaranteed QoS, that will be a premium rate for that. Time-based transactions and the off-peak time could be at lower rate than during the peak times, and that will encourage users to utilize the network capacity during the off-peak times. These are some of the short actions that operator will have to take. Let us look at the long-term strategy which operator has to take. First of all, operator has to decide on optimal mix of spectrum options, whether to go for a new spectrum if it is available, or upgrade to higher spectral efficiency technologies, say from HSPA to HSPA+. Also, optimizing the network and bandwidth needs as per market needs. For hotspots areas and high-value customers, you have to inject more capacity, and you have to make sure that the performance of the network in that area is on its highest level. Also, one action is to coordinate with the regulator and other operators on harmonizing additional spectrum needs and explore potential spectrum sharing options. I know there are in the world some couple of examples where operators have shared the spectrum in some cases. Other long-term is just to consolidate the refarming and network sharing options. Here, adopt refarming to ensure quick time to market, and also make sure that the refarming is made at lowest cost without impacting the quality of the service. Also, operators have to consider cooperation with other operators in terms of sharing network infrastructures to minimize CapEx and OpEx, which we mentioned earlier. In terms of revenue, ensure excellent access quality to all customers, especially to those high-value customers. They need to be very well served. Also, adopt a tiered pricing strategy to provide excellent service and manage network congestion. Again and again, avoid the flat rate data offers. I keep repeating it because it's very, very important at this point in time. The data offload solutions consider femtocells and Wi-Fi cells as techniques to reduce the congestion on the network and shift the traffic from the wireless network into other networks seamlessly to the customer. Also, one option is work with fixed line operators and regulators to ensure access to the fixed network, especially the ADSL and fiber cable. Right? Also consider cooperate with fixed line operators on bundled services. What is the role of the regulator? Regulator has so much to do to ease up the situation. First of all, in terms of spectrum strategy, work out a national spectrum plan, both long-term and short-term, to accommodate the explosion in the data traffic. Also, regulator has to work with operators to identify their short-term and long-term needs for additional spectrum. Also, regulator has to work with the neighboring markets to adopt harmonized spectrum strategy in conjunction with the other regulators. It makes no use if if every country has its own spectrum used, and that will reduce the efficiency of the network. And we see that very obvious in the Middle East today. Almost in the same country, in Saudi Arabia, for instance, each operator is running on his own, on different frequency band, which is really not efficient at all. And this is what I mentioned maybe this morning. This is, in my view, the biggest threat of the successful of LTE, because of the fragmentation in the spectrum. And let us remember always that the major success of 2G and 3G was because of the harmonized frequency spectrum adopted and built across the world. Now, there's a threat that LTE might face a problem in this regard. Also, put immediately in place efficient procedure for spectrum allocation, taking into consideration that additional spectrum is imminent. There is no way we can cope with the explosion in the data traffic in the coming 5 to 10 years without additional spectrum. Also, spectrum allocation takes a long time. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 years from the day it is allocated till it finds its way to serve the customer, or even longer. In terms of license constraints, it will allow operators to use the currently and the newly allocated spectrum technology neutral. And I keep hearing that there are some regulators, some other countries where they are from the old school, and they force the operators to stick to the letter of the license and not to allow them use the spectrum allocated in different technology. And this is short-sighted view. Also, encourage refarming and allow technology neutral use for refarmed spectrum. Or regulators has to encourage operators to refarm their allocated spectrum for better use of it. Also, facilitate and encourage cooperation between operators in terms of sharing spectrum and sharing infrastructure. I believe the regulator has a big role in forcing and also providing suitable incentives for the operators to cooperate together and share the spectrum and share the network infrastructure. In terms of regulations, a regulator has to enable fair and optimum competition between operators and avoid price erosion, because price erosion, after all, it will be on the expense of the quality of service. And this regulator has to make sure that this doesn't happen. Also, encourage using data offloading techniques such as hotspots, Wi-Fi, femtocell, and other offloading technologies. Again, there is a big role in the regulator side to encourage operators to go into that and make sure that 2 or more operators cooperate in this regard. Also, regulate bundling of services with fixed operators. These, in my view, what the regulator has to do to cope with the dilemma of the section. Now here, I just want to share with you what we have been doing and we will do in Zain KSA to deal with the situation. First of all, since early 2010, we identified the need to upgrade our network to HSPA+, and we did that, and we keep upgrading it. Whenever we identify hotspots, we go and upgrade. So most of our now CBD areas in the major cities in Saudi are now HSPA+. 2 minutes, okay, I'm done. Then in the early 2010, we identified the need to run an LTE trial. In fact, we ran the largest LTE trial ever in 2010, but unfortunately we were unable to complete that trial because of the lack of spectrum at that time. Also, we have launched data offloading packages based on Wi-Fi and FIM2Cell. This are already being done. Now, because of the non-possibility of getting any new spectrum for LTE, we have made an effort and we refarmed our 1800 megahertz spectrum, and we were one of the first runners who introduced LTE in Saudi using the 1800 refarmed spectrum. Also, we are at the point in time, we are exploring the potential of sharing LTE infrastructure and even spectrum sharing with other operators in Saudi. Also, in parallel, we are working out very fiercely with the regulator to free up and clean the 2.6 gigahertz for LTE. We are doing that as we speak. Now, the next is, I think I'm done with my presentation. Let me walk you through some conclusions. We have seen that over the last 4 years, mobile data traffic has increased 150% annually. In the coming 5 to 10 years, there will be a growth of 55 to 85%, with Middle East and Africa will see 129 or even 150% CAGR, which is higher than anywhere else in the world. In the coming 5 years, there will be a growth of about 25 times, while in the coming 10 years, there will be a growth of 500 times, okay? Despite the growth, this astronomical growth in traffic, the revenue will grow 10 to 20%. And that will put so much pressure on operators to find spectrum and forcing the current users to vacate that band and make it available for operators to deploy the LTE on that band. That really concludes my presentation, and I will be glad to answer any question you may have.
Any question from the audience?
And the message is very interesting. The question is, you say that you are evolving your HSPA network towards HSPA Plus.
Yeah.
Are you considering introducing a dual carrier, 42 megabit? And if yes, if it will be, the implementation will be in parallel with the LTE deployment?
I see. Let me make sure that I understand your question. I think you are asking us for in HSPA Plus whether we are using dual carrier or not, yes, right? And whether we were going to use that for LTE. Is my understanding correct? Okay. To answer that, yes. In HSPA Plus, yes, we have aggregation between two carriers. And luckily, we have enough spectrum to do that. In terms of using it for LTE, we are not yet considering the two. I mean, right now, the HSPA Plus on 2.1 gig, right? And it's carrying tremendous amount of voice and data traffic. We cannot really afford, refarming the 2.1 for LTE. But what we're doing right now is we are now vacating the 1800 and offloading the voice traffic on the 900 megahertz by adding more TRXs, by adding more sites and so on, right? And freeing up the 1800 and that will leave absolutely minimum impact on the voice traffic capacity for the network. And this is what we're going to launch, and that's what we are launching really, LTE on. Now, going further in future, yes, we still need additional spectrum. We're still working with the regulator, with CITC in Saudi, to allocate for us additional spectrum in the 2.6 gigahertz. And in fact, we are doing it jointly with the other two operators.
Hamdi, yes. I think I have to stop here. Thank you. Please give a hand to Hamdi. Thank you very much.